Hey guys, it's Mark here from the ETF Tracker Show, and we've got a special one today where we do a follow-up with someone that we've already interviewed because we had some more questions, and this is questions from people in the audience. And so a couple of weeks ago, we spoke to a market maker, Kevin Feerick of 9 Mile Financial. We learned all about the importance of market makers when it comes to ETFs. And after that interview, we had some questions from people asking about the primary and the secondary markets and how the mechanics of that affect ETFs and how 9 Mile play a role in all of that. So it's something that is very interesting, because when you consider how ETFs work, you do need this kind of facility there, and you need the ability to have that primary and secondary market. For everyday traders, they just need to worry about the secondary markets, but without that primary side of things, ETFs wouldn't be as useful as they are. So look, I hope that you enjoyed this short but sweet episode, and we hope you continue to learn more. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Cheers. And we're back here with Kevin Feerick from 9 Mile Financial. Kevin, thanks for coming back.
G'day, Mark. Good to see you again, mate.
Good to see you. So we've asked for you to come back, and thanks for agreeing on this, because we've had a follow-up from the audience, which is a first for me for these, but it just shows the reach with which your show and some of the other shows have had. And being a market maker, people were actually quite interested in that from the things that we spoke about. But the main thing that people came back with as a question, and I'm hoping you can get into it a little bit here, has been the difference between the primary and the secondary market. What is that all about, and how does that work for market makers?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it is a really, really good question, because ETFs are probably, I think they're probably pretty unique in terms of exchange traded products, that they have this dual access kind of marketplace model. And there's specific reasons for that, and there's specific outcomes that kind of fall out of the way that those marketplaces operate. So if I take it if I maybe just talk about the roles of the different players in the ETF marketplace. So obviously, if we start at the end investor, maybe they're talking to an advisor or somebody like that, and they access the market through what they see typically on the ASX in Australia, or Chi-X, obviously. So, they transact on exchange. You don't particularly care about who's on the other side of that trade.
Yeah.
In most cases, and you buy your ETF, and that's kind of it, really. It settles and it's in your account, and you look at the price as you go forward in time. But that doesn't have any interaction with the actual fund issuer. So, your Vanguards or BlackRock's ETF securities, they're not involved in that transaction. So how they actually get funds into the ETF is through this primary market. And the primary market is it's a relationship between the fund issuer and a designated set of what is called authorized participants, or APs. And APs are, they have a relationship with the issuer, and they have an agreement that they can create or redeem is the terminology. Create or redeem kind of wholesale units of the ETF. Market makers are often authorized participants or APs, but they don't have to be. We, 9 Mile Financial, as a market maker, we are APs with a whole bunch of issuers in Australia that we deal with. But we can also interact and utilize the create redeem process through a third-party authorized participant, and that's not very unusual either. So sometimes market maker is an authorized participant, sometimes they're not. An authorized participant is its own kind of role within the ecosystem, and it is their role to deal in these wholesale kind of block units of ETFs. Typically there might be 50,000 shares or 100,000 shares that they'll buy in one block, and those those blocks will trade at the, I think in the last podcast, we talked about the net asset value of the fund.
Yep.
And these wholesale blocks will trade at the agreed net asset value, or NAV, at a particular point in time, usually something like the end of the trading day. The two parties will agree what that value is, plus some kind of fee that the issuer may charge to issue those block units of the fund. Mm-hmm. So for a market maker, this is a super important facility for us. We can't really do our job without access to this wholesale market.
Yeah.
If we take the example of a new fund listing, typically 9 Mile will go and use a create facility. So we'll go and create, and we'll offer up a basket of securities that reflect that fund, or even cash. And we'll create that unit, so that'll get cash into the issuer's fund, and it'll get, say, 100,000 units of the fund into 9 Mile's account, so that we can go and sell that on market to the end investors. So as in end investors, day one of an ETF, they go into the screen. There's offers there for people to sell. People are selling those ETFs. They're not other investors that have bought them because they had no access to buy them. It's just listed. It's market makers and other people who may have access to the primary market that have gone and created those units in the fund, and now are offering to sell them to the end investor.
Well, that's pretty interesting. The creation redemption process is one of the key attributes of ETFs that allows them to be that vehicle that they are. And I think that not many retail investors necessarily would even understand that, or even if they have been around for a while, it's just very easy to, you don't have to worry about the market making, you just buy and sell these ETFs. So I think it's really important for people to know this. Do you guys provide, information like that? I think we had some stuff in the show notes before, but on 9 Mile Financial, whether it's the blog or the website, is there more information if people want to understand this process a little bit more? Just, it doesn't matter to them necessarily, but they might be curious about all of this. Where would you suggest that they go?
Sure. I can't think of anything specifically that we have out there that explains the mechanisms around the primary ETF market. There is some great literature. Vanguard, I think, have a great piece. I can send you a link, and VanEck out of memory as well have a really good one. Yeah. So I can certainly we can put those links maybe on the show notes or whatever. But there is some good literature out there from the issuers to explain the kind of mechanics far better than probably I'm doing right now. Because it is, I'm certainly a visual learner. It's something that it's a nice way to get a diagram to see how these parallel markets kind of operate in tandem. And there's some really, I guess, important, behaviors that the primary market, consequences of the primary market, because institutional, market makers or authorized participants can have this option to trade, very close to the NAV value of the fund. Mm-hmm. Then it incentivizes, if there's very strong natural flow, if people suddenly really want to buy into, some kind of semiconductor fund or whatever it is, and there's natural market pressure for that price to go up. Yeah. And the people who have access to be able to buy those wholesale units can realize kind of an arbitrage opportunity to sell. And so that will put kind of equivalent pressure down on the sell side of the price, which keeps, that's why ETFs, in the main trade very, very, very close to NAV. Yeah. They don't tend to drift off, like closed-end funds can kind of drift away from NAV depending on the kind of market sentiment of that particular fund. Mm-hmm. That's not really what we've seen in ETFs, certainly through, even through market turbulence, as we spoke about before last year. And, as the market sentiment is kind of whipping around all over the place, the ETFs have really kind of proven themselves that they can kind of trade at a very fair value around NAV, and the primary market is kind of a key driver to enable that, because yes, it encourages people who have access to come in and get on the other side of those trades, and can kind of lock in, some risk-free profit to them. So that's good. I think that helps with the market stability of the product, and it helps, kind of keeps it doing what it's supposed to do. So it's an important point to know, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've answered the question quite well there with even some extra bits of information, which will really help anyone that's looking for this kind of stuff to, just understand the markets more, so that they know, primarily how it works, primarily primary and secondary there. So we'll put all of that kind of stuff. You just, the words just come flowing. We'll put all this stuff in the show notes, but look, we really appreciate your time again. And I'm sure if we get more questions like this, we'll do more of these kinds of follow-ups with yourself and other guests. So thank you very much again for your time, and we'll see you next time.
Man. Always happy to help.
Awesome. Cheers.
All right. Cheers.
Okay, so that wraps up this shorter episode of the Interviews with Experts, where we've done a follow-up. So it was great to see all about the creation and redemption mechanism that makes ETFs as good as they are. And it's not something that you see necessarily every day, but it's important to understand and realize what is going on there, so that you can trade with more confidence and just have a better understanding of the markets, especially if you are, interested in ETFs here or overseas. The process is quite similar. So we thank Kevin, we thank 9 Mile for their time, and we hope to see you next time. So please do like, share, and subscribe. See you later.